Attack on Mika!
My sister Sakura and I were identical twins, and although our faces looked very similar, our personalities were quite different. My sister was very active and social. I was very calm and introverted. However, we got along especially well. I was always hiding behind my sister, and even though I always stuck to her like a bug, she was always nice to me. I loved my big sister with all my heart. And then on the day of my sister's wedding, when the groom arrived, all of the guests caused quite the commotion, and not in a good way. I don't blame them though. My sister would be the first to admit that she liked rich men. Everybody assumed that she must have picked up a smart CEO from somewhere. However, the person standing next to her was a very weathered, poor-looking middle-aged man. His age was apparently 45 years old. My sister was 22 years old. He was old enough to be her father. If I were to say something nice about him, perhaps I could say that he seemed like a nice man. But my sister, standing there in her wedding dress, was unbelievably beautiful. And no matter how you looked at it, the groom seemed unfitting. When the ceremony was finished and we were moving into the reception, I could overhear our relatives and friends whispering about it. Maybe he comes from a rich family? Or if that's the case, she can cheat on him as much as she wants. I can only think that she was possessed by something. I'm sure they're going to get divorced soon anyway. Even if you couldn't accept it, I couldn't believe they would talk about the bride and groom like that. I was full of anger. However, because I was weak and shy, I was unable to speak up. The venue also wasn't a place that you could call top class. It was just a local hotel. My sister has so many friends, but given the size of the venue and how many people the groom was inviting, she must have really minimized her guest list. If I ever get married, I want it to be so over the top that I can rent out a top-class hotel. I want a special-made, one-of-a-kind designer wedding dress, and I want to invite all my friends. And the honeymoon, of course, would be a luxury resort. I would want a small wedding, and I only need to invite family. Hey, wouldn't you want to have a wedding together? It would be so beautiful, the twins getting married at the same time. You and I would definitely have different taste, so no thanks. Oh, come on, Sumire. You're so lame. That conversation felt really nostalgic. My sister was standing next to the groom, smiling and laughing. She looks really happy, but knowing my sister, I'm sure she had to take notice of the atmosphere in the room. The reception continued, in this very cold atmosphere.
And now, we have a speech from the bride!
Dragging the hem of her dress, my sister slowly made her way towards the podium. So, my sister began her speech. She started by thanking our parents and describing the groom's personality. A harmless speech went on. Nobody was tearing up at my sister's words. My sister wasn't crying either. But I became uneasy. Was my sister really truly happy right now? Wasn't it my sister's lifelong dream to marry a rich man? Isn't that what would make her most happy? I felt myself on the verge of tears. My twin sister, who was my other half, was actually our Cupid. I was suddenly mentioned, and I quickly raised my face. My sister was smiling as she was looking straight at me. Sumire, you and I have always been together. Of course, when we were at home, but going to and from school and going out to play, it was always you and me together. To the point where even when we became adults, we moved out of home and ended up living together. Unlike me, you are more reserved and kind, and you're an irreplaceable person in my life. That's why, when you were struggling, and you became what one would call unemployed and closed yourself into your room, it was really hard for me too. Because I love you so much, I was so sad when you stopped smiling, and I felt so sorry that you were crying all the time, and you weren't able to leave the house at all. I couldn't stand to watch it. That's why, as your older sister, I decided that I would do whatever I could to support you. Everything my sister was saying was true. I was roped into some trouble at work and I had to resign, but I became depressed and I was holed up, and I couldn't leave my room anymore. That said, I would move back to my parents' house because I would be in the way. But my sister stopped me. "I'll protect you, Sumide," she said. At the time, I didn't have it in me to tell my parents either, so I let myself be spoiled by my sister's words. However, I had just started my first real job, and to take care of you while also taking care of the house and trying to earn enough for both of us was a lot harder than I imagined. The apartment that we were living in at the time always felt really sad and dark, didn't it? And the guy that I was dating at the time, when I became too busy to see him, and even when I did get to see him, I was tired and easily irritated, and he was quick to leave me. Because of that, even though I was supposed to be the one supporting you, Sumide, I also became depressed, and there were times that I said some horrible things too. But, well, we both did, so I'm not going to apologize for that. We can just put that all in the past, right? And that was when I met Thomas. He was working as a delivery man. I was too busy with work and I was relying on deliveries for everything. He was the one that would bring us our boxes almost every day. As I'm sure you all know, I always had a very specific idea of who I wanted to marry. That's why, when I first saw Thomas, between you and I honestly didn't feel anything at all. However, even though I was negative and not friendly, every day he would greet me with the biggest smile. And even though we lived on the 3rd floor without an elevator, he never complained once about carrying our heavy deliveries, and he would politely bow his head as he left. And that was so pure, and his positivity was so bright, that before I knew it, I found myself waiting for his delivery every day. Even if I knew that he was just doing his job. When I was suffering, but I wasn't able to talk to anybody about it, he saved me. But what made me happier than anything was that by seeing his smile, I would smile. And when my sister would see me, she slowly started to smile too. Don't you all think that's amazing? It was a relay of happiness. And that's when I realized happiness wasn't something that you can buy with money. In the short time that I would receive the deliveries, we started exchanging a word or two. Little by little, that turned into conversations, and he was such a great talker. Before I knew it, I was hitting on Thomas. At the beginning, he said, "The age gap is so wide, I could be your father." And he didn't entertain me at all, but... There, my sister cut off from the mic, and she and the groom looked into each other's eyes. The two of them had such genuine smiles, and they looked at each other and nodded as though they truly understood everything. However, I didn't give up, and as you all can see, he finally cracked and agreed. Sumide, because of you, I was able to fall in love with Thomas like this. Thank you. I love you. My sister's words were so sincere. Even the people who were making fun of her earlier had tears in their eyes. I was also crying, but that wasn't because I was touched by her speech. It's because I was sad. Nobody besides me knew, not even my parents knew, that my sister was going to die soon. My sister is energetic and beautiful, but just the other day we received news from her doctor that she had 1 year left to live. Apparently, it was a really difficult disease, and there was almost no possibility that it would be healed. My sister, that I love so much, my Sakura, was going to be gone so soon. I really blame myself, because I became depressed and I put too much on my sister's shoulders. I felt like I had made her sick. I cried and cried without caring what anybody else thought. But my sister just held me close. Of course, there's no way this was your fault. There was nothing that could have been done about this disease. But if only I wasn't so needy and you could have been more free and could have been more happy. Even when he found out about my disease, Thomas didn't run away from me. Even though he knew my situation, he still said he loves me. And he also promised that he would be by my side until my very last breath. And that's when I knew that love wasn't something you can buy with money. If you hadn't been needy, I wouldn't have met him. And thanks to you, now I am truly so happy. Being able to spend my days with a smiling Sumire and with Thomas is my happiness right now. My sister said that to me as she firmly gripped my hands. I pretended to be touched by her speech, and I continued to cry. Mr. Thomas, please make the rest of my sister's time. My sister Sakura that I love more than anything in this world, full of happiness. Seeing my sister shine in her wedding dress, that was all I could wish for.